How Xi Jinping became so powerful. Xi Jinping is currently the president of China. But wait, there is a lot more. He is also the General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party, and the Commander-in-Chief, Joint Battle Command of the People's Liberation Army, as well as the head of the Anti-Corruption Bureau, among many other titles. He is called the Chairman of Everything. On October 23, 2022, the Chinese Party Constitution was amended to increase the power of Xi Jinping, as if whatever power he had wasn't sufficient. Just think about it. The party constitution, which is considered more important than the state constitution, was amended to add a person's name and his visions. Let's see the exact translated wordings in the relevant amendment, according to the Chinese official statement. The Congress unanimously agrees that the new developments in Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, since the party's 19th National Congress, should be incorporated into the party constitution, so as to better reflect the major contributions made by the Central Committee, with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, to advancing the party's theoretical, practical, and institutional innovations. The Congress calls on all party members to acquire a deep understanding of the decisive significance of establishing Comrade Xi Jinping's core position on the Party Central Committee, and in the party as a whole, and establishing the guiding role of Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, and to fully implement this thought in all areas and stages of the work of the party and the country. This amendment, along with the clauses, ensured that Xi Jinping is as sacred as the party, and any attack on Xi Jinping will be treated as the attack on the party itself. In atheistic China, the party became the religion, and the Communist Party manual became the Holy Scripture. Adding Xi Jinping's name to the constitution in a significant way meant he is now elevated to a deity within the party and thereby the country. The question is, how did Xi Jinping become so powerful? To understand this, you need to go back and see how Xi Jinping got to be the General Secretary of the CCP, and the top leader of China. The person who was considered most likely to succeed Hu Jintao was Bo Xilai, a much more charismatic, flamboyant, popular, and powerful leader than Xi Jinping. Bo Xilai was a populist who built low-income housing, someone who believed in social welfare, a strong believer of the communist principles, and was considered a hardliner. Bo Xilai also established a strong network within the CCP. His father, Bo Yibo, was involved in the elevation of Jiang Zemin to succeed Deng Xiaoping in 1992. So, Bo Xilai was considered to be part of the Jiang Zemin's faction of the CCP. Hu Jintao, whose term was ending in 2012, did not want Bo Xilai to succeed him, and wanted a soft-spoken, humble Xi Jinping to succeed him as the leader. In the end, Xi Jinping became a compromise candidate, and Jiang Zemin lost in the power struggle to install his own candidate. This also meant Xi Jinping had to fight the influence of Jiang Zemin and his vast network within the CCP. Xi Jinping's first task was to eliminate Bo Xilai, who was supposedly involved in a coup attempt against him. Bo Xilai's wife had already been implicated, and later convicted, in the murder of a British businessman. Bo Xilai was then prosecuted for corruption charges, and was given a life imprisonment. Most people and observers believed that Bo Xilai was thrown into jail because of factional politics. Xi Jinping had just begun with his purges. The mild-mannered Xi was not so soft anymore. Under the guise of cleaning up corruption, Xi Jinping purged around 5 million CCP officials, which included many leaders who were in the Jiang faction. Xi Jinping was ruthless in his pursuit of clearing any Jiang member in high rank, and their financial networks. But Jiang Zemin had built an impressive network within the internal security apparatus during his regime, and Xi faced a formidable force in Jiang and his network. Xi Jinping went after his opponents methodically. He gradually dismantled, purged, took away their influence, money and capacity to oppose him, over a period of several years. Many influential people were imprisoned on corruption charges, and Xi Jinping's own network was created, to replace the power vacuum, thereby instilling a general fear psychosis on the minds of anyone who would think of opposing him. Xi Jinping ensured that all the power structures were under his control, and so he assumed titles like General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party, Commander-in-Chief of Joint Battle Command of the People's Liberation Army, and the less important title, President. The title of President is what he uses for the global press, because it gives an impression that he is a democratically elected leader. People around the world are usually unaware of the brutalities that the Chinese leadership commits in order to maintain power within its grip. In a dictatorship, power cannot be obtained nor maintained without suppressing its people and creating an atmosphere of fear. Xi Jinping learnt a lesson from his predecessor Hu Jintao, who was considered as the weakest of the Chinese communist leaders. Hu was made weak by Jiang Zemin, by not relinquishing all the powers to Hu, when Jiang retired. Jiang still controlled the military, and had high influence in the internal security, an office which grew in large numbers during Jiang Zemin's reign. Xi Jinping didn't want anyone else hold any power of authority, which could threaten him. So, he stripped Jiang of his military title, and kept all the titles for himself. However, it earned him a lot of enemies in the process. Being a second-generation party leader, Xi Jinping grew up in the complex CCP politics, with strong connections with other second-generation or third-generation leaders, who were called the princelings. Though many of these princelings helped in the rise of Xi, there were some who Xi Jinping had issues with. He went after these leaders with the same vigor as his other opponents. Soon, there were none left who could oppose Xi Jinping. The list of his enemies included some powerful people who could eliminate him or cause great harm to him. Xi Jinping was very aware of this. He had no interest in relinquishing office. He knew, if he did, he's likely to be killed. So, he decided not to leave office in 2022, as was required by the party constitution. In 2017, Xi Jinping changed the constitution of the Chinese Communist Party to allow himself to continue beyond the 2 terms that was envisioned and stipulated by Deng Xiaoping. There was nobody who had the courage to stop Xi Jinping from making this change to the party constitution, though it was obvious that the change was done for the sole purpose to facilitate Xi Jinping to continue in power indefinitely. With no serious opposition left, Xi Jinping could continue his authority with an iron grip. Xi Jinping soon became intoxicated with power, and even mild statements against him, or his policy, was viewed with great anger and contempt. There were plenty of people in different levels of power who wanted to prove their loyalty to him. They prosecuted and imprisoned anyone who dared to talk against Xi Jinping or his policies. The prosecuted and imprisoned included a long list of political and business leaders, real estate moguls, technocrats, and celebrities. The level of censorship that was done in China mimicked closely to North Korea. It became obvious to everyone within China that money or popularity didn't shield anyone from wild prosecutions and punishments. After having China under his tight grip, Xi Jinping turned his attention outside China. He targeted many institutions of power abroad, including in the US, Europe, Australia, Japan, etc. If any business in the US or Europe issues any statement against China or Xi's policies, there were serious consequences in their operation within China. Many who surrendered meekly to China's demands included Nike, Tesla, Mercedes, Sony, NBA, BMW, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Wall Street managers, hedge funds, and many more. Similarly, the top educational institutions like Harvard were seriously compromised with Chinese influencers. Many staff working in institutions like Harvard and Stanford would defend China, even on egregious human rights violations, as in Xinjiang or Hong Kong. The same was done with many print and social media, as well as non-profit organizations. Eventually, It appeared most of the world either fell in line with Xi Jinping, or were silent to his abuses. Xi Jinping's power was aided by those, who should have held some principles, but gave tacit approval or silence, either out of fear, or for profits. Thanks for watching.